Holy cow, guys, it is absolutely collapsing. Like, those were the exact words used inside of ABC News headquarters this week because something just happened that they never saw coming. In fact, the mainstream media spent 8 years mocking him, swearing, smearing him, twisting his every word. And now Trump didn't just clap back. Trump has just legislated their funeral. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Trump's big, beautiful bill just took down his #1 media enemy. And we're talking about lawsuits. I'm talking about budget cuts, a full-blown ratings collapse on national television, and it's all connected. In fact, this is the biggest media downfall since CNN Plus crashed and burned, except this time it wasn't market forces. It was Trump's revenge, baked into federal policy and pushed by patriots like Senator John Kennedy, who's warning everyone that this bill doesn't get better with age. And don't you think that this was about The View? Well, it kind of was about The View, but it wasn't just about The View, guys. We're talking federal funding freezes, lawsuits that cost millions of dollars, censorship disguised as DEI, and a Harvard pipeline tied to communist China. Guys, it's all unraveling right here, right now, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to expose exactly how President Trump was able to use this bill to starve his enemies of their own funding. He revealed this $15 million lawsuit that started it all. I want to show you exactly how Harvard is panicking. And more importantly than all of that, I want to explain why John Kennedy just lit a fire under the Senate to finish the job. Don't blink, do not scroll away, don't click away, because by the end of today's video, you're going to see exactly how President Trump ended up outplaying his globalist media machine and why this might only be the very beginning. So if you guys appreciate the news updates, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and start with the carnage that's unfolding at the very heart of this liberal media machine. Guys, folks, it's happening. The once untouchable ABC talk show, The View, the one that's essentially done nothing but mock Trump, bash his supporters, and shove woke narratives down America's throat, they're in free fall, right? So I'm talking about essentially ratings that are in crash territory for The View. Does anyone even watch The View anymore? Americans are tired of being deep-throated with their woke narratives. This is horrible. And now, are you ready for this? Harris Faulkner on cable TV, which people have to pay for, is now beating The View, which airs for free on broadcast television. This is unheard of. Their audience dropped to like 2.5 million people, and it's still slipping. It's still crashing. This might sound like a big number until you realize that they were once the most watched television show in their time slot during the 2024 election. Not anymore, though. Even Bob Iger, Disney CEO, is now telling executives at ABC, cut the Trump bashing or risk cancellation. It's not a rumor, guys. That is a directive, because it's not working anymore. America has turned them out. And here's the irony. The same man that they ridiculed every single day, he is the very one that's choking their influence and draining their oxygen. One executive order, one lawsuit, one budget cut at a time. Speaking of lawsuits, guys, you think the collapse is a coincidence? I say not a chance. Back in December, President Trump won a $15 million lawsuit against ABC News after your boy George Stephanopoulos falsely claimed Trump was found liable for rape. That was a lie. He knew it was a lie, and Trump made them pay. Then came CBS News. Trump dropped a $20 billion lawsuit on them over their 60-minute hit piece where they deceptively edited an interview with Kamala Harris just before the election. That lawsuit forced one of CBS's longtime producers. Now, at this point, they're cleaning house out of fear. They want to know what Trump said about the entire corporate media landscape. Well, he said NBC is no good. He said ABC is no good. He said CBS is no good. And now, with this bill, he's not just insulting them. He's institutionally dismantling their power one line item at a time. Now, if you think that's bad, wait until you see what's actually buried in this bill that just passed the House by one vote, mind you. It was like 215, 214. Guys, We're talking billions redirected, woke programs cut, and a few shocking lines that even caught Harvard off guard. So stick with me because I'm about to show you guys exactly what's inside President Trump's big, beautiful bill and how it may actually have delivered the biggest blow to legacy media and academic elites in American history, guys. Of course, if you appreciate the news updates, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. All right, let's go ahead and rip the cover off of President Trump's big, beautiful bill. And I want to also expose what's really inside this thing because it's way more than just some tax policy. Are you guys helping your parents out with Medicare? Here's a shortcut. Just call Chapter. It's super easy. They already helped Leslie Taylor save $1,000 a year. They helped Sharon Bertusik after she lost her Medicaid. She ended up getting on a Medicare plan thanks to Chapter with no premiums, no Medicare costs or no medication costs, and her copay dropped from $89 to $20. It's just amazing. Anyway, Chapter looks at every plan, they break it all down for you, and they help people just like her parents make the best choice. Did I mention that they're totally free too? It's like, why haven't you called Chapter already is the real question. So you can give our friends at Chapter a call right now at 909-563-8279, or you can visit them online at askchapter.org/Ron. Guys, one phone call could literally make a huge difference in your financial life. Anyway, this is not just a budget. This is clearly a political weapon, and President Trump is wielding it like a scalpel. So first, this bill, it locks in Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanently. This means that basically there's no more threats from the Biden camp or the progressive mob to yank back your hard-earned money. So, big ups to that. Second, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. It's just economic policy. It's a direct line to working class Americans, bartenders, waitresses, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, nurses. Trump is saying, look, hey, you deserve to keep what you earn. Anybody else agree with him on that? If you do, drop 47 in the comments right now. Third, $1.5 trillion in spending cuts over 10 years. But don't let the number fool you. Senator John Kennedy calls it a rounding error. When you're spending $7 trillion a year, he's calling this a rounding error. Still, it's a strong start, and politically, it's a show of force. And finally, this bill, it does something even more powerful than that. It includes targeted crackdowns on woke federal funding, including redirecting money away from DEI-infested institutions and back toward actual Americans. So what happens when you cut the media's favorite toys out of the budget? Well, you start triggering some real panic. And so this is where it gets even more satisfying, because the same networks that spent years pushing all this crazy propaganda, they're now crying broke. Trump cut all their federal funding to PBS and NPR, calling out their blatant media bias. It's gone. No more taxpayer subsidies to bash the very taxpayers who funded them. The FCC, under Trump's directive, is now investigating NBC for DEI hiring practices, asking whether they're illegally discriminating by prioritizing race and gender over qualifications. That's right, guys. DEI could cost them their license. But here's the kicker. This bill, it funnels money away from the ideological media and elite schools, and it puts it into places like the DARPA, this agency that invented the internet and the GPS. In short, Trump is draining the swamp, not just of bureaucrats, but of the media institutions that have protected them for decades. This is why The View is collapsing. This is why ABC is lawyering up. And this is why the mainstream press is throwing a temper tantrum like a 4-year-old on the floor in the middle of a Walmart, because for the first time, they're not just losing their narrative control, guys. They're losing their cash. But we're not done, because one of the most powerful voices in the Senate just issued a 60-day warning. And if Congress doesn't act fast, this bill and the entire MAGA momentum behind it could collapse in on itself. Now, of course, we're going to talk about Senator John Kennedy and his blistering takedown of the SALT deduction scam and how he just turned the Senate into a battlefield. Folks, if there's one man in Washington, D.C. who doesn't mince words, it's got to be Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. And what he said about President Trump's bill, he said, it's not like wine. It doesn't get better with age. So Kennedy is sounding the alarm, and he's absolutely right. This bill, Trump's economic war plan, barely squeezed through the House. And now it's up to the Senate. But Kennedy knows exactly what's coming. He says, delay, stall, sabotage. He's essentially calling for a strict 60-day deadline to get this thing passed, or else risk losing the momentum that Trump worked for months to build. And Senator John Kennedy, he's not sugarcoating it either. He says some senators will never vote for it. Rand Paul is not voting for anything. Let's just be honest. Now, we know for a fact it's not going to be unanimous, but Kennedy is betting big that real conservatives will stand behind this bill, not just because of what's in it, but because of what it defends, what it deregulates and dismantles. And one of the most explosive points of contention, it's actually the SALT deduction scam. So I want to break it down real quick, because if you're not familiar, SALT stands for state and local tax deductions, and buried inside this House version of the bill was a provision to raise the deduction limit from $10,000 to $40,000. Sounds good, right? Wrong. Yeah, Senator John Kennedy, he calls it a blue state bribe, a $300 billion handout to places like New York, New Jersey, and Illinois to keep certain Republicans in those states happy for re-election season. His words, all we're doing is encouraging those states to raise taxes and run people out, and he's not backing down. He says they don't need a 4x increase in deductions. They'll have to fill out, hurt feelings report, but they'll survive. Now, Kennedy and the America First base, they're drawing the line. You don't reward failure with federal bailouts. You cut them off. And so this is why this bill is being rewritten in real time. The SALT hike likely getting gutted. And you can pretty much bet that Senator John Kennedy's fingerprints are going to be all over that rewrite. And just wait, because while the Senate is fighting over deductions and deadlines, President Trump has opened a second front. And this time, the media isn't the media. All right. This is Harvard. Now, stick with me, guys, because I want to share with you guys exactly how President Trump's war on elite indoctrination centers is exploding into the headlines, and why federal money may finally be off the table for DEI, anti-Semitism, and woke ideology. So while the media is melting down and the Senate scrambles, President Trump just opened another front. This time, it's aimed squarely at the elite institutions poisoning the next generation. And at the top of that list, that's right, Harvard University, the so-called pinnacle of American education. They're now in the crosshairs of Trump's federal budget agenda. Why? Because Trump says Harvard has become an overpriced indoctrination mill. And Senator John Kennedy doesn't disagree. In fact, he laid it plain out. The purpose of education is to make you think, not make you comfortable. Harvard enforces ideology, not education. Trump's response? Cut the funding. Under the new proposal, all the federal grants to Harvard, they're on the chopping block. That money would actually instead go to trade schools, community colleges, and DARPA agencies that actually innovate, like the ones that gave us the internet and the GPS. Now, here's the real stinger. Harvard's not just pushing DEI and woke politics. They're now being accused of supporting racial quotas, failing to stop anti-Semitism, even collaborating with Chinese communist-linked researchers. So this is not just some cultural fight. It's a national security risk, and President Trump is moving fast to shut the faucet off. But if it doesn't stop there, what we're witnessing, guys, isn't just a one-off punishment of Harvard. This is really like a total reset of who gets taxpayer money in America. President Trump and Kennedy, they're demanding third-party oversight for any university or any media outlet that's receiving public funds. You're entitled to your opinion. That's what John Kennedy said, right? But you are not entitled to taxpayer dollars. That same principle is what shut off the spigot for PBS and NPR, and now it's creeping into academia. Harvard's response? Outrage, panic, damage control. So they've essentially promised to do better, but Trump's demanding proof that they're going to do better. And he wants independent monitors in place before a single dollar flows back in. The message is loud and clear. You lie, you indoctrinate, you discriminate, you get defunded. And don't forget John Kennedy. He praised schools like Vanderbilt and University of Chicago, which still allow viewpoint diversity. So the bar isn't impossible to meet. It's just too high for woke institutions who refuse to admit that they've gone too far. And yet, we're still not done, because all of this, the lawsuits, the bill, the defunding, none of it happens without Trump winning this is huge. So I think it's crystal clear here. Donald J. Trump didn't just win in 2024. He shattered the narrative, okay? Despite everything that the media threw at him, despite the indictments, the censorship, the deep state sabotage, President Trump won every major swing state, surged among Black, Latino, and young voters, and most importantly, he flipped millions of Americans who voted against him back in 2020. So when The View says he doesn't have a mandate, no, he has the mandate, and he's wielding it with precision. This is why the big, beautiful bill passed. This is why funding for fake institutions is drying up. This is why media companies are collapsing from the inside. He won, and now he's collecting. But there's something even bigger happening beneath the surface. I mean, look around you. CNN's ratings, they're tanking. MSNBC, they're drowning. ABC's The View, they're losing to cable. And it's not just because Trump sued them. It's because the American people finally see through their act, through their crappy charade. We watch them lie about Russian collusion. We watch them cover up Hunter Biden's laptop. We watch them twist the facts on COVID, the border, the economy, and Trump himself. And now, for the first time in modern history, they're being held accountable. Not just in courtrooms, but in budgets, in ratings, and in public trust. And Trump said, look, you lied about me. Now I'm cutting you off. And he's not joking. He meant it. And if this bill makes it through the Senate, it will mark the end of an era, the end of legacy media's monopoly on truth, the end of elite institutions siphoning billions of dollars while attacking the very country that funds them. So what do you think? Should Harvard get another dime? Should The View survive another season? Should this bill, this big, beautiful bill, go all the way through? Hit me up in the comments down below, guys. Hit the like button if you're done funding your enemies, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel because the collapse has only just begun. We'll see you next time.